Well, hi there, and thank you very much for checking out my YouTube channel. I do greatly appreciate it. We're going to talk a little bit about Turo and kind of just do a little weekly update. I've been doing, well, I've been trying to get dailies out there as far as what I've been doing to get my new vehicle or my new to me vehicle up and ready. So I've gone ahead, we've done a video on licensing, insurance. We've talked a little bit about care and maintenance and purchasing the vehicle, paperwork, administrative, and a few other little topics in there on booking guests and talking about booking my Outlander. So this time around, we're just going to do a quick little weekly update so you get an idea of where I'm at and what's going on. So I started getting the parts together to put together this new 2014 Chevy Cruze. So it was on the cheaper end of things. So it's going to need a little bit of TLC and a little bit of work on it. So I went down to Pic N Save, which is it's not really a local scrap yard, but it's a spot where you can go in Woodstock and you get to go into the yard and pull your own parts. And with that comes a bit of a savings. I tried going down into Waterloo to another scrap yard where it was basically they service you where they'll pull the part and bring it out. And I went on to carparts.com and I pulled a part that was graded A, but when I arrived down to the scrapyard, I would say it was a D grade. So wasn't properly classed. Plus, it wasn't presented well. It's a weird business buying used and pre-owned parts. The rating system on cars.com isn't an automated system. They rely on the folks that are placing the ad or promoting their parts to be honest and clear on the descriptions and provide proper photographs. Partially my fault going down and looking at it based on the photograph that was presented, which after retrospect, when I went and looked at it, it wasn't the passenger mirror that they photoed. It was the driver's mirror. And I guess just in the mix of things, it got confused. So when it went down, it had a broken hinge and it looked like it had been dropped off the shelf. And it wasn't the color that was actually promoted. So it was that burgundy color instead of the bright red. So on a couple points, it was a fail, right? So from that standpoint. So that's why I went up to Pic N Save. And Pic N Save is about half the price of getting a part off of what I describe as a ready-to-go scrapyard where they have it all cataloged and that's where you're at. The dilemma is that you have to kind of look at it from a standpoint of how long is it going to take me to remove a component. So with the mirror, it's four bolts on the interior with a trim piece that needs to be removed, and you have to slide the wire connector out. So time-wise, it's 15 minutes, maybe a half hour if you take your time and look at the sun while you're there. You know what I mean? Like it's a quick job. So that's why I went down there. Now, getting it off the shelf, you're looking, at least what I was quoted, about $80. Getting it down at the Pic N Save was $35. So there's a good savings there from that standpoint. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the matching color. So I'm going to have to deal with that. Now, I'm thinking what I'll end up doing is ordering the colored match paint, and I'll end up pulling the mirror apart. There's a cover that kind of overlays over on the actual mirror itself. So that's the part that's actually painted. And the mirror is actually matte black. So one of two things I can do, I can either get the color-coded paint, paint that little cap, which isn't very much, so it'd be easy to do, and then do a quick little clear coat on it and probably be just fine. So that's probably the route I will go. And the other one is to pull the cap off on both the passenger and the driver's side and go to like a matte black or a semi-gloss, and then it would match the rest of the mirror housing and it would just look like it's a black mirrors. So those are some options I'm weighing right now. I'm thinking I'm probably going to go at this point. I'm going to order the paint in. I need to do a blow-in on the front bumper. It had a crack, a very light crack, so nothing major from that standpoint. So I've pulled the bumper off, and what I've done is I've glued the bumper back together using Gorilla Glue, of all things. Now, then I went on the back side of it, made a brace, and then we used it's a chemical that basically melts or bonds plastic. So you apply it to the surface, make sure it was nice and clean, and then I put another piece of plastic behind it to act as a base. So between the Gorilla Glue holding kind of the finer crack together so it wasn't going to spread, and then with the brace behind it, I think it's a pretty solid repair. So the next task on it is to do a little blow-in, which is where I take a little bit of body fill, a very, very light Bondo, and just kind of fill in those little cracks and those little crevices and give it a nice little sand, not looking for perfection, right? So that's not the goal here. And then you just take a little, spray it down, and maybe throw a clear coat on it, maybe blend it out on the bottom. It's in a lower part of the car, kind of on a bit of an angle, so it's not even going to be noticed if it's not 100%. But the idea is just to make it look nicer, basically to make it look on par with what you'd find with a 2014 car that's had some kilometers on it, right? So it's just a cosmetic repair, very, very light. Other things I'm doing right now, I tried to get it in for safety. Timing wise, that's not going to work. I've got some things that are going on in the background, so I've got to run around with that. So that'll probably get put off to next week, and it's going to go in for a pre-safety. And then from there, there's probably going to be I'm going to assume there's going to need some work done on it. I had to do a water pump. I tried ordering that in from Amazon on Monday with a next day delivery. The drawback with that is that it went missing in shipping. So it's an odd one. It's happened to me a couple times with Amazon, where they'll send you out a notice and say, hey, this product is still available. There's lots in inventory. In other words, this one shows there was 6. And then midway through the shipping, as you're tracking it, it just disappears. So it's one of those things where I don't know if that's happened to you or if it's consistent. I think it's my delivery area. I think it comes down to if they look at the value, they go, it's not worth it. And then they'll put it off. I find that annoying because if they just said, hey, you know what, that particular part, we're waiting for a bundle of stuff to go out towards your area. If that were the case, I would have said, well, that's fine. Bring it on Friday. Like, I don't need it next day. And of course, then the next day it didn't show up. They sent a note saying, hey, it's lost in transit. Do you want to hold off and wait? So I waited. I waited the next day and it didn't show up. So I sent a little comment in and they basically went, okay, well, looks like we're going to cancel the order. And the odd thing is I went right back and reordered another part that's essentially the exact same thing from just another supplier, and it says it's en route. So I don't know if we're going to have the exact same situation as we did with this one. So we'll find out there. I also got a valve for the valve cover. We need to replace that. So we'll see how that works out too. So we'll probably do a little more work on the car before showing it. I did give it a quick little vacuum and a tidy and a little wash. It's not bad. I got to do a shampoo of the interior and kind of get things nice and tidy from that standpoint. There's just it's not particularly stained. It's just one of those things where it hasn't really been cleaned in a few years. So it's just getting time to get in there and do a good vacuum and then do a shampoo of the headliner and shampoo the seats and pull the carpets and that type of deal. But it's just everyday stuff. It's nothing horrendous from that standpoint. That's about it as far as what's going on with that particular car. So we're just kind of putting along, getting our things done. It's a 2014. I've given myself to the end of the month, and we're coming up to the 18th, which means it's 12 more days. Try and get that out on Turo on a rental as far as available. It's already posted. It's on, I guess, what they call their little recess. So it's just kind of set off the side, not ready to book yet. So it's one of those things where I'm hoping it's ready at that point. I think price point wise, I think if I leave a couple mentions at work and just say, hey, it's here. If you need to rent it, it's available through Turo, and then I've got insurance coverage, and I don't have to worry about the muck about with the payments. It's like it's just smooth and easy. I find that I've got a lot of staff. Well, I don't have staff, but I've got a lot of fellow employees that come in from Kitchener and Guelph, and they seem to have hoopties. So I'm getting a funny feeling that at some point, come winter, and it's coming up real quick, it's going to be, oh, my car stalled, or it's going to go in the shop, or I don't have transportation. I need to get to the shift, and it'll be one of those things where you could either call a cab or you could take a Turo car for. I think I'm going to try and price that around that $35 mark, which means I think it'll be about $47, which I think is pretty cheap from that standpoint. So I think that'll be a good little runabout for the wintertime. Again, it's just one of those things where I want to make sure mechanically, like the cosmetic stuff, I want to make sure it looks tidy and clean and appropriate for what a 2014 Cruze should look like. No big blemishes, no big dents, no marks. Nice presentable car, but you'd walk by it and just go, there it is. nothing's hanging off it. So that's the goal with the cosmetics on that, is just to make it look clean and tidy. And then the mechanics right now, it's already had coil pack's been done, plugs have been done, serpentine belt's been done. It's just one of those things where now I just want to go through the checklist and make sure that all the maintenance stuff is up to date and current. Maybe get the brakes done so I don't have to deal with it for a year, and then go from there. So that's the plan with that car. So hopefully that'll work. Now, when it comes to YouTube videos, I am trying to put out as much as content as I can, but given the fact that I have one car out and one car that I'm working on, there's not a lot of material to really pull from. The Outlander, it's been out on not a long term, but it was on a 10-day rental, and now I've got a message from Turo through their messaging system saying that they've requested more time with the vehicle, which is great. Pretty flattered by that personally. So they're extending their trip, and they're going to hang on to the vehicle a little bit longer. They're pushing it till the end of the month, which is that's exactly what they were describing down the States, where if you do a week rental, which is a bit of a discount, you may lose, but you might gain because people tend to extend. And this is the exact situation. So he's going to extend it to the end of the month, and that will be a nice little win in that book, because it just says, hey, okay, that took care of the month, which is great. And, nice and easy. So I'm pretty jazzed about that one. I've been using my app on my phone. So we'll give you a little showcase here. Let's see. And this is one of those things where I thought I'd obsess and go crazy about, but to be honest with you, I haven't really been all that concerned. So this is PAJ. So this is a tracking system. I don't know how well that'll show up, but we'll have a little look. So essentially what it does is it tells me where my little car is. So that's pretty cool. I kind of like that. It also gives a little tracking on it, so I can actually see. So it gives a little kind of a how your guest is driving rating. So I kind of like that. It gives me a flash in the event that there's a sign that there might be some abuse or some dramatic stop, essentially. And it hasn't had any of that. He's kind of a little over the speed limit, but don't we all just a little go over the speed limit? So nothing to really write home about. So that's kind of a cool little feature right there. And I've been checking it maybe once a day, if that. And I'm not really that concerned about it, but it's nice to know that it's working and it's functioning. And the fact that it's kind of its first kind of little long run. It's nice to know that the hardware and the software works reasonably well. So that kind of puts me a little ease on that. Still dealing with the insurance company. Again, trying to get the Turo package kind of even acknowledged. So again, I'm dealing with a broker that sold me the same insurance company that Turo is on, and now they're telling me that Turo's insurance doesn't really cover when the car, and it's an issue where I have a broker that isn't very good at their job. So it's kind of like, well, here's the documentation. I'm insured with the exact same company that Turo is insured with. I'm almost certain that it wouldn't be on the website or part of their package, as this is how it works. And they just seem pretty insistent that I'm wrong and that that's not how the process is. And so again, I'm seeing a jump in my personal insurance, and I'm seeing a lack of knowledge or a lack of real. Okay, I can see it if you said, you know what, I don't know what it is. Let me look into it. Let me make a phone call. Let me call your insurance company and actually see what the deal is. And they haven't done that. And I find that very frustrating. It's kind of like, no, here's your bill. Be gone with you. So I'm thinking on renewal time, I am probably going to go to an independent broker. I've been looking around. There's a couple offices in Atwood. I'm probably going to pop in and just get a quote. They seem to deal with the same company I'm dealing with. So I'm going to think that if I'm looking at a jump at one place, I'm probably looking at a jump at another. Like, that's just the nature of it. But if they're on par, I'm going to probably just move and say, okay, well, handshake, it's been nice dealing with you for the last 15 years. Sorry to hear that things have changed, and now they've become a bit of an awkward moment for everybody. So, and again, it's just one of those things where you look at it, you kind of go, if there was some oversight, and maybe the fact that maybe that's the training. It's just like, wham, bam, this is your number, take it or leave it. We move on to the next one in the 800 number. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's just what they do. It's just a queue system. So I like having a little bit of, I don't like to be pestered, but I like to have a little bit of customer service. So if I call and ask for something, I can get something done in a relatively quick time. And frustrating because it's one of those things where up to about 8 weeks ago, prior to when I wasn't in doing Turo and changing a few things around, it's pretty straightforward. I've got my Jag, the car that I have that I don't really drive that much. It's been there for 3 years. My little PT Cruiser has been, I think, 7 years. So, and then before that, a pickup truck and a van that it's just one of those things you look and kind of go, the world's changing, right? So again, I'm going to find myself a nice little rural broker, probably that deals with farm implements. Who knows? I'm going to find something along that line and go from there. I think that once I get to the fifth car in Turo, and I'm not saying that yet, but I feel pretty good about the Cruze. I think I can get that sold and booked on my own, opposed to having to rely on Turo. I think if I do a kind of a little handshake and a walk around and just say, hey guys, this is the word of mouth, will get out locally, and that'll be a filler car. I don't think it'll turn into a long-term rental. Maybe it does, which would be great. But I think it'll be one of those things where it'll be a stopgap for folks where I'm working. Will say, hey, I need to grab a car, and it's literally in the parking lot, right? I think that's an advantage. So we'll see where it goes from there as far as that's concerned. But I feel pretty confident about that one. And the money that I'm going to have into it. So again, just to review where we're at. So I got a 2014 Cruze that was in walking distance, which is why I got it essentially. And the car was in not perfect shape, but not horrible shape. So I needed some TLC and some time put into it. So I've got taxes onto it, insurance, cost and parts. So we're probably about $1,000 easily there. So I'm now at $2,800, and then I'm going to have to do a safety. So I figure that's going to be another. Well, the safety itself is actually pretty expensive, $400. I find that surprising. So my number might be off on that one, but I think I'm going to be under $4,000 pretty easily in the car, with probably a little bit of change aside, and that'll leave me with about $1,000 based on retail value. Again, that's basing on the report that the motor vehicle department provided, say what the taxes are or the average sale price of that particular car is. At that point, I'm going to go, okay, that's pretty reasonable. So I can probably drive that car for 6 months with a safety attached. And if the tires stay reasonable and doesn't get banged to bits, I can probably sell that for the same money that I got into it without much of a worry. So again, not the car I was looking for, not the color I was looking for, not the features I wanted, but because it was so accessible and easy to get, and the price was competitive. Like it wasn't a steal of the deal, but it was a fair price on that for what I think the car represents. And again, when I look at, which I thought was surprising, when I went to Pic N Save, they had about 4 or 5 of them in inventory. So getting parts, if I do need something like someone backs into a back bumper, or if I need a tail light, it seems to be such a common vehicle in that environment that repairing and servicing isn't going to be a fortune with it, which is nice. So again, that's one of those inadvertent kind of little wins. So we'll see how that goes. Next week, again, it's going to go shopping. I'm going to go shopping for some brokers. We're going to go do a little visit locally and just do a little walkabout and kind of see what's out there for me. We're going to try and get back into economical, and I don't mind the company itself. So the insurance company is pretty decent from what I've gathered so far. All the literature I've received from it seems pretty straightforward. So again, I'd like to stay with them because Turo is insured through them and go through that. And again, my thought was there really wouldn't be that much confusion, but apparently there is. And we'll go from there. So that's the plan from that standpoint. I don't know if you've been on Turo, or if you're a host right now and you're just seeing what's out there in the Canadian market, trying to get a comparison. But I always like feedback. So if you do have a vehicle in the GTA, or you're in a small town, you kind of go, yeah, I've been booking my car out for a year. Here's some of the hurdles I've had, or some of the things that I've gone through. Um, Again, I'm not looking for horror stories. I'm looking for kind of that inspirational, it works out in the end type deal. Um, that's kind of what we're shooting for. So we're into the second month, a little over. So far, I'm up. I think on the Outlander, I think we're doing okay there. I think the Cruze is a wild card and a bit of a surprise, but I think we're going to do fine on that one. Big kind of thing is coming up in January, when my insurance is coming due or to renew. Whether or not it's going to see a big jump. If it's going to see a big jump, then that's going to affect what I'm doing with those vehicles. So if it's one of those things where it's thousands of dollars, I look at it and kind of go, well, it would take a lot to pay that off with the rate that they're at. It may be a goodbye to Turo, and it might be a sell off the cars and go from there, and we mark it up as a life lesson. Once I go get some quotes, it might not be as bad as what I'm visualizing, so it might just be a 30% bump, which seems to be when I talk to everybody around work, or we talk kind of everyone, they kind of go, yeah, we've all been moved up to about 30 points over a period of time. So that might just be me getting caught up on that. We'll go from there. Try and get into a body shop to get a bumper repair done. That turned out to be a bit of a nightmare from that standpoint. I think that based on that, if I had the means or the want, I think if you open up a small body shop where you did spot repairs, kind of like the quick in and out type deal, I think you do pretty well. The dilemma, I think, is regulations on that. I think that's a lot of hoops to jump to do something that would be on the lower end. So most of the shops that I went to were quoting $700 to $1,200 to do a bumper, and that was without repair. That was with replacing with an aftermarket or a suitable used piece. And I went hunting for a used bumper. I could not find one that was in decent shape, so that's why I ended up repairing the one that I have. So I just went through YouTube, looked at a couple of videos, and went, okay, well, that seems pretty straightforward. And doing a blow-in, which is where you kind of blend the paint from old to new. I am a little bit of an artist. It's kind of what I do. So for me to blend paint and to shade it in and shade it out isn't really much of a challenge for me. So I think I'm going to be okay on that end. We'll probably end up doing that as just a rattle can kind of job. I think that'll do fine. And so that's going to be the project there. And we'll probably do a little video on that as the car's moving along. And that's about it for the week's update. So that's all the excitement. Again, we'd greatly appreciate if you left comments. If you have any kind of ideas about Turo and how to improve bookings or how to help out with getting insurance, by all means, I would really love the input. We're at about 25 minutes. I try to keep these things around the 30-minute mark as best I can. But I think we're going to wrap it up. Okay, you have yourself a pleasant and enjoyable day, and we'll talk to you later.